Hello, my name is Meera, and I'm an undergraduate student studying applied mathematics. For my research, I worked under Dr. Hammerling and William Daniels, and William Daniels is a graduate student also working with Dr. Hammerling. For my project, I did a genetic algorithm optimization study for atmospheric carbon monoxide models. This project stems from the fact that in the southern hemisphere, the main source of atmospheric carbon monoxide are large burn events. Therefore, carbon monoxide can be used as a proxy for fires. When the vegetation is dry, this is when large burn events are more likely to occur. Something called climate indices, which measures the variability in sea surface temperature and wind, were used in a multiple linear regression model. These predictive models for atmospheric carbon monoxide concentrations can help prepare for large burn events. In Figure 1, we can see in Plot A, these are the 7 different regions that are in the southern hemisphere that we are producing models for. And we can also see the average carbon monoxide. In Plot B, these are the regions that these climate indices relate to, and we can also see the standard deviation of carbon monoxide. This is the multilinear regression model that we are using, where CO is a carbon monoxide anomaly in a given response region at time t, psi are the climate indices, and tau is the lag value for each index in months. So an R package called Red Climate Chem was made that has 3 different variable selection algorithms to produce these models. One of them is the exhaustive method, which always finds the best model but has a long runtime. The genetic algorithm, which when optimized can have less of a runtime and produce very good models. Stepwise regression, which is very fast but finds the best model least often. So we performed an optimization study to optimize both model accuracy and runtime in the genetic algorithm. So the genetic algorithm is a stochastic variable selection technique that maintains a population of models throughout the whole process. And so there are 3 different ways that models are produced for a new generation, and those are asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction, and immigration. So after a generation is produced, a stopping criterion is checked. So here in Figure 2, we can see the flow of the genetic algorithm. So the genetic algorithm was implemented in Red Climate Chem via the GeoMulti package, and it contains many different hyperparameters. So we have chosen to study the following hyperparameters: population size, mutation rate, sex rate, immigration, and consecutive. And we are going to vary these parameters one at a time for our study. So these are the results that we found from our study. There are 2 different y-axes shown. This is runtime, which is the amount of time it took to run the code using the specified parameter values, keeping the others at the default value. And for comparison, we've also shown the exhaustive runtime. And then we can also see proportionate differences, which is essentially the amount of models that differ from the exhausted method over the total amount of models. So you want both low runtime and low proportionate differences. So for the population size, we would choose our optimal parameter to be 40 because the proportion of differences is pretty low and also the runtime is really low, which is good because since the proportion of differences is really low, this means that the models are fairly similar to the model produced from the exhaustive method. And the exhaustive method, as I mentioned before, produces the best models. So for mutation rate, we would say that we would want to go with 0.2. For sexual reproduction rate, we would choose 0.001. And for immigration rate, we would choose 0.001 as well. And consecutive size, we would choose 2. So here we can see these optimized parameters, hyperparameters that I mentioned. And the hyperparameters in red are more sensitive to change, meaning that the runtime or the proportionate differences will change more drastically than the others. And so here is a comparison results between the default and all optimized hyperparameters. In Figure 4, we can see the comparison of user default hyperparameter values and optimized hyperparameter values. So as we can see that the runtime has decreased, and it's roughly a decrease of 11.8%. And compared to the default hyperparameters, the model quality doesn't decrease much, which is really good. So it ranges from roughly 0.2% to 0.4% difference. So in the future, we're going to test models with more covariates, and essentially this is going to have a larger impact. It's going to have potential to have a larger impact on the runtime because these are going to be larger models. And we're also going to vary multiple hyperparameters at a time. So we can see how these different parameters relate with one another so we can choose the optimal solution. Okay, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.